Hello there, I'm back playing Assassin's Creed Origins and we're going back to tour. So this time, let me see what's to be done. Okay, back and this was finished. We're moving to daily life. So we have 20 here. So let's start with first. Okay. No, 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 no. Okay. And 6 stations. I started with 6 stations. Okay. So this is very important. Um, so we're going to.
Welcome to Osiris, the first mummy.
Oh my. I would like to be a mummy someday. That's, I don't know.
The oldest mummies recovered date from the Old Kingdom, though Egyptologists believe that mummification was in use. Ideologically, the will to preserve the body is not explained. Osiris was.
You will have to
It is
learn this on
Plutarch
your
who
own.
gives the most simplified and complete summary of the story. Within Egyptian mythology, Osiris. Isis
Okay.
then reassembled the body of her husband by binding it together with strips of. The ritual
Sounds
used to
scary.
bring Osiris back to life essentially depicts how he became the first mummy. It is why, on the sarcophagi of kings, we often find Isis and Nephthys represented as the magicians who restore life to the deceased.
Okay, we're going back. So, woohoo. Darkness. Sorry. Okay, I didn't start the tour properly, so for it. Okay.
Welcome to Mummies of Ancient Egypt. The mummification process used by ancient Egyptians was highly ceremonial in nature. The first step was cleaning. Once bodies arrived at the mummification site, they were placed on inclined tables while the purification of the body began with a libation from sacred water. The priest then fumigated the body with terebinth resin. After the ritual cleansing, priests used oils, spices, and all kinds of essences to further purify the body of the deceased. Finally, all body. Once the After taking care of the brain, embalmers made an incision on the left flank and carefully set aside the viscera. The inside of the body was also rinsed with palm wine. Then the embalmers filled the belly with pure myrrh, cinnamon, and other perfumes and sewed it shut. The removed viscera were washed in palm wine and packed in crushed herbs, before being placed in canopic jars. Canopic jars were placed close to the sarcophagus or kept in a chest nearby. Towards the middle of the New Kingdom, canopic jars assumed the appearance of the four sons of Horus. Natron is a naturally occurring mineral found in Embalmers used natron as a desiccant to dry the flesh and stop the corpse's putrefaction process. Once the body was cleansed and eviscerated, the deceased was covered in natron for about... Once the body was... Next came the phase which gave mummies their most well-known appearance. In addition to the jewelry and amulets arranged...
What happened?
Masks were an important part of a mummy's finery. Early wooden funeral coverings were very expensive, however, and soon replaced by masks. Cartonnage evolved to cover the entire body of the mummy during the 22nd dynasty. The mummies were placed on cartonnage envelope. Once the mummy was properly wrapped and adorned, there were no less... The last stage of this long ritual was the act of touching the mouth with the adze to symbolically allow the breath of life to infuse an inert body. Its performance was reserved for a very specific set of people: priests who wore the mask of the god Anubis, a close relative of the family, or by the heir to the throne.
Okay, next. Okay, so we will go through entire switching characters as well. Because this portion should be done with all characters. So let's see. So right now I will try to go like 4 with each, but if that doesn't work, then I'll have to go all 5 through all 20. Let's see.
Welcome to The Importance of Mummies. The first hieroglyph for embalmer appeared in pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom. The mummification techniques were jealously guarded by embalmers from generation to generation. Despite their efforts, Herodotus...
Okay, so...
The Uabet, meaning the pure place, was where the embalmers mummified the body. The pharaoh... The least costly embalming option. Egyptian civilization has always appealed to Westerners, even before the Greek and Roman invasions. As early as the Middle Ages, mummies... The Egyptomania phenomenon was heralded by Napoleon Bonaparte's Egyptian campaign, which lasted... By 1868, mass tourism began in Egypt, under the aegis of the Cook Agency. The rich would indulge in leisure trips to Egypt and bring back money. Thanks to those dubious parties, the fantasy of a mummy coming back to life, seeking revenge on its defilers, was born. Okay. The mummy malediction myth has remained steady in popular culture ever since, particularly in written media and cinema.
Alright, we're moving back to... So this is 4th, and I'll change character. We'll pick someone else. Okay.
Welcome to Amulets and Rituals. Ancient Egyptians believed the world was a chaotic place, filled with supernatural forces. Priests would infuse amulets with magical religion was so important to ancient Egyptians that it permeated every aspect of their daily life. There was a complete calendar of each of the religious days, both good and bad, illustrating the appropriate daily rituals. Along with deemed messengers of the gods, or it was oracles that guided the Greek sailor Batos to the coast of Libya, where he founded a colony known as Cyrene. During Alexander the Great's campaign to conquer Persia, he consulted the oracle at the Temple of Amun within the oasis of Siwa, and was subsequently ordained a divine being.
Okay. Okay, we're changing character now. Okay. So we're going out. Okay. Let's see if this works. If not, I will have to go with each of those 5 through all 20. I don't think that's necessary, but let's see.
Welcome to Temples and Rituals of Ancient Egypt. During rituals and festivals, the god was carried on a solar barge between the areas of a temple or the temples of different cities. Ancient Egyptians believed that Ra, the sun god, traveled the skies in a boat known as the solar barge. The god Ra believed mankind was conspiring against him. He ordered Sekhmet, the lion-headed war goddess, to kill all humans. To his chagrin, Ra, unlike the daily rituals that took place in the temple and were performed by the importance of these festivals is demonstrated by their longevity. Records show that Osiris festivals occurred from the temple hierarchy consisted of Egyptian priests were not. Scribes were custodians of the sacred sciences. Some priests were associated with the funeral rites and were considered the group with medical knowledge. The servants of the Ka, priests and all the officials who served the temple worked only 3 months a year, with each period separated by the most sacred part of the temple. Pharaohs and their priests often chose the naos was where the god statue stood. The representation of the deity was usually in stone or wood and decorated with gold, silver, and precious stones. Smaller temples had only one naos, while larger complexes, such as the Temple of Karnak, had many chambers to honor gods, such as Amun, Ptah, and Osiris. Each statue was believed to be a receptacle for the presence or essence of the god's Ka, enabling it to take a physical form. Through the statue, the god came to the shrine to eat, drink, and communicate with the pharaoh, or with the priests standing in for the pharaoh.
Okay, so 25. Oh my. Okay, what's next? Let's learn more. You should definitely try this. It's not just um, collecting things, but learning something.
Welcome to Temples and Priests. From its foundation, the city of Memphis favored worship of the god Ptah. The main temples were the center of religious, political, and economic life in ancient Egypt. These sacred places, located in the center of Memphis, the Temple of Ptah was the most prominent and imposing building in the city. The long walkway leading toward the temple, known as the Dromos, was guarded by rows of sphinxes. The entire sacred area was designed to keep the statue of the god protected, deep within the sacred enclosure. The Dromos opened into a courtyard, with a surrounding portico graced with columns carved to resemble palm trees. During special festivals, the general population was allowed to enter this location, but under no circumstances would they be allowed into the sacred spaces beyond the courtyard.
Okay.
The Memphis Alabaster Sphinx was discovered in 1912. Erosion has destroyed the original. The size of the imposing sculpture reflects the importance it had to the temple during the New Kingdom. This sphinx is one of the few remaining artifacts. In Egyptian culture, some animals were associated with gods, while others were considered to be living gods. The Apis bull was believed to be a divine entity. The earliest mention of the Apis bull in ancient Egypt goes back as far as the first Egyptian dynasty. Originally the symbol of fertility, the Apis bull was linked to the god Ra, with the image of the sun carried. The Apis bull lived with its harem in a sacred barn located. Like other living divinities, the mortal incarnation of the Apis bull was prayed
Makes
to,
you wonder.
and when it died, it was given a luxurious funeral, which included mummification. Until the reign of Ramses II, the Apis bulls were buried in individual graves in Saqqara. During the 26th dynasty, the bodies of the bulls were buried in enormous stone vats in the underground corridors of the Serapeum of Memphis. Ancient Egyptians believed that temple rituals were essential to maintain order in the cosmos and allow community. Details of the ceremonies found. The high priest would first awaken the sleeping god with a chant. Then the seal. The god was then washed with incense-infused water and its mouth rinsed with mineral salts. The heredity was the primary source of new recruits. High priest candidates made their way up the ranks of the temple hierarchy. In the 21st dynasty, Thebes became the educational institution in ancient Egypt was known as the House of Life. Only two known centers have been the House of Life, not limited to instruction for young students, the House of Life was a source of reference for many scholars, with rooms dedicated to papyri of many disciplines. Because papyri were preserved there, the Greco-Romans referred to the House of Life as a library.
Okay, so here's one.
Ancient Egyptian economy was based on an unequal system of redistribution of goods. There are records of pharaohs making offerings of love. Palaces, warehouses, and granaries were built inside the temple compound to better control the redistribution of goods. The size of the recorded numbers of goods, combined with every other function filled by temples, only serves to confirm their might as economic, religious, and political centers of power within Egypt.
So here we are. How many I finished? I'm not able to. 3 or 2? No. One, two, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's first. Okay. No, it's second actually with her. So I have to do this and one more, and then change a character. Have to keep track of what I'm doing.
Welcome to Building Ancient Egypt. Constructed with bricks made of mud, most ancient Egypt. Limestone was common and easy to extract. Ancient Egyptians preferred to use sedimentary rock beds, or layers like. Workers would draw a large grid directly on the stone's surface, taking care to leave a space between the blocks. The gallery extraction technique. To cut the stone, they created a longitudinal curve. To maintain the stability of these mining pits over the course of quarrying, workers would leave support sections of unexcavated rock. In every quarry, dedicated shrines were established to offer protection for the workers. In particular, Serket, the scorpion goddess, was considered a very powerful deity among quarry workers. Every mine and quarry of ancient Egypt included a scorpion charmer, who was said to use magical powers to ward off the dangerous insects and keep the workers safe.
Okay, completed. So this one, and then changing character. And then we will do something else. Okay, just a second. I'm having trouble here with my kitty. she is impossible. So I will have to stop this for a moment and continue if she doesn't stop. Whatever she is doing, she found something and playing with that. No, no, no. Okay, not possible. So a little break.